basically see it, this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, the two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is, so yep.
What do you think we came here for? What do you think it was that made us decide that we needed our voices heard in this place? And if the tables were turned, what would have made you do what we did? What cause would have inspired you to make your stand?
My name is Susan. I'm from Christchurch.
My name is Andrew from the Bay of Plenty.
William from Central Hawke's Bay.
My name's Jordan. I am a mother and a beautician.
My name is Sunia. I'm born and bred in Auckland. I'm from the healthcare sector, frontline ambulance officer, 6 years.
I am Mike from Auckland. Grew up here, spent most of my life overseas, and then came back about 5 years ago. Felt a real call to come back here, didn't know why. I think maybe it was this.
My name's Sue Gray. I do lots of things. I'm a mother of 3. I'm an adventurer. I'm a lawyer.
I've been in various occupations. I've been a business owner, served my community, volunteer firefighter, volunteer ambulance officer.
I'm a beauty therapist. I do cosmetic tattooing. I like to help people, so I love that job.
I was a primary healthcare nurse for 22 years and I lost my job when they mandated the COVID vaccination.
I'm from Gisborne, East Coast, and I was mandated out of adult intellectual disabilities.
Well, I was part of the first lot that got affected by the mandates. I absolutely felt alone. Some of them gave me a call and started being nasty and calling me an idiot and said I was a conspiracy theorist and all this stuff.
To put it plain and simple, I saw it as you hired me to stand up for those that can't speak for themselves, and then you fired me for speaking up for me.
It's ridiculous. Where did we go so wrong that you have to go and fight for people who are getting bullied for not taking medication?
I was mandated out of 2 careers, but the wake up was what happened to my child. At 19 years old, she was mandated out of 4 things that were precious to her, and I watched her go from being alive and on fire for this world to absolutely broken by this world.
This was not a river of filth. This was doctors, nurses, professional people, tradesmen. This was a cross-section of all New Zealanders.
I'm pretty sure we didn't look like criminals. I didn't feel like a criminal. I felt like I was doing the right thing, and I still believe to this day I was doing the right thing. I don't think that'll ever change.
So I was studying psychology and anthropology. The papers that I took when I was waking up and trying to fight for my family, one was social psychology, which I was learning about obedience and groupthink, and the other paper was all about New Zealand protest and how voices were silenced. That was literally the essay that I had to do, literally diving into how voices are silenced while I was looking up around me and watching it happen in real time. So I welcomed the convoy. I was one of the people on the bridges, and it was amazing. I just remembered like how excited we were to feel so connected to these complete strangers. And for most of us, there was this isolation or this feeling of being alone in your understanding and what you were seeing. And so when you got connected with people who understood the same thing as you actually felt seen and not crazy. There is this understanding of seeing past the veil, like you know that something needs to be done. Nobody knew it was going to turn into Parliament. Nobody had any idea what it was going to bloom into. I just knew that follow.
I just wanted to tell Alistair that they're stopping. No, they're going through.
So as said before, if you're hungry, go and take a break and have a beautiful feed from the beautiful people in Napier. They put on a great spread for us all. So go down and thank them all for standing in the rain for us. Bye-bye.
So I baked rice bubble cake the night before, and I painted my car up. I put People Power on the back of it, and then I picked up my friend Shelley and we joined it just out of Takaroa, and we stood on the side of the road in the howling rain and the smiles on our faces. I mean, there's been a lot of sayings that I haven't really understood until this part of my life, and one of them is you cannot dampen our spirits. The rain had no effect, and we were soaked to the bone.
Gosh, that experience was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, and it still makes me emotional when I think about that day. I was just going to my unvaccinated netball game, where all the unvaccinated netballers that weren't allowed to play their leagues anymore would get together, and they turned up and they're all so excited. They're like, something's going on, something big is happening. There's thousands of people out everywhere, they're all over the bridges. And I was like, guys, it's the convoy. And it's all about the mandates. And I just said, I was thinking about going. And they were like, we'd go, but we've got kids, or I've got to do this, but you can go. Yeah. I was like, played the netball game, and everyone's like, see ya. Yeah, I didn't sleep much that night. I just packed a bag. I packed for a few days. I had no idea what was going on.
We were all unsure, basically. We didn't know what to expect. So as we left that day, there was 4 of us, and we really felt as though we were like the only 4 going from Gisborne. It was literally like a sneak out of town type thing.
So I joined in Kawakawa, and I thought I'll just go to Whangarei. And then by the time we got to Whangarei, I was like, oh my God, this is happening. Like, people were like there waving their flags, and I was like, okay, I've got to go.
And we got to Taupo, and it was incredible. There were just people everywhere, signs and enthusiasm, and suddenly it was almost like the Pied Piper was pulling us to Wellington.
And it was just all go from there. We arrived in Napier, and because the horse truck was so big, people started arriving thinking that we were in charge. So they just started loading food. We're talking copious amounts. The back of the horse truck was full. It was people saying, this is my contribution. You guys are doing this to keep our businesses alive. There was just so much thanks and gratitude.
It was like this massive release of all the trauma that had happened for everyone. Whether you were a kid who'd missed out on sport, or the people who had lost their jobs or lose their mortgage.
In every little town you went through, there were just people just cheering and encouraging and saying, thank you all so much. It was just like, wow, this is New Zealand. I think they were cheering that somebody was doing something to stand up for their rights, that finally something was happening, because people had had enough and they'd given up almost in despair for their future and for their families and for their businesses. Finally it was like, yeah, this is it, it's happening.
And it was one town, there was a young girl, and she had a huge sign saying, I'm doing this for my sister that's died. And Anna said to me, Mum, look at that sign. That really just hit home, the reason why we were doing it. We were doing it for every other person that had lost their jobs, their homes, everything. It was fighting for everyone. And for my daughter, that at the time was only 10, she was like,
they're standing there for us. And she's like, we have to go and we have to keep going, Mum.
I think relief would probably be a big word for a lot of people, to find out that you're not alone and to find out that there's thousands of other people that think the same that you do. I think people were just happy and relieved to know that they weren't alone in the fight.
They didn't never show the truth, you know, they just wanted to paint one narrative of that we had no support and then we were just a small group of people that were conspiracy theorists and crazy loopy people. That was far from the truth, you know, or there was a small contingent of people that gathered at New Plymouth. Well, no, there wasn't. It was like a massive welcoming parade and all they kept saying was thank you, thank you, thank you, to make it known, to make us be seen, to have a voice.
Just the love and support from New Zealanders, the amount of it, like they talk about us like we're the minority, but that day showed that we're not the minority. People were outside their houses for hours, not really knowing if this convoy was going to come through just after 6 or just after 8. And whole families, all different walks of life, throughout that whole day, all the thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that I seen, I probably seen 2 people either giving the fingers or telling us to go home. And to me that's like, holy shit, there's a lot of people supporting this. It was massive. And that's what makes me so emotional, that I was actually a part of something that was so powerful and that New Zealand was right behind.
Wow. This is how you unite a nation. For the last 2 years, New Zealanders have been told to be kind. We've been told we're a team, but every team requires leadership. What kind of leader thinks it is okay to encourage bullying in 2 classes of society?
The media and the government will have us believe that those of us supporting this convoy represent a small fringe minority. They label us with derogatory names in an attempt to divide families, friends, workplaces, and divide society in general. Well, I got news, they've failed.
In just over a week, multiple groups have come together and united under a common goal: freedom. It's about your kids who can't play their favourite sport. It's about family members who have been excluded from family gatherings. And it's about people who have been forced and coerced into a medical procedure just to keep their job, to pay the bills and feed their families.
A leadership that stood on solid footing would not fear the people it serves. They would not be afraid of debate. So for any of you up there that are listening, I challenge you to come out and address these good people. Or does your contract with Pfizer trump your duty of service to the people who put you in office?
So, we're all here. This is our opportunity. I invite everybody to stop hiding, stop being afraid, and be the biggest you. Celebrate everything about yourself that makes you so special, that gave you the courage to stand and unite. Let's start celebrating our humanity. Let's start celebrating New Zealand. We've seen it over the last few days. The Kiwi spirit is live and strong. There is one group trying to crush it, and we have had enough.
You know, looking back on it, the first day there was probably a lot more energy and people almost felt a lot more built up after coming along with a convoy and seeing so much support. You know, this is the time that the government was going to come out and talk to us, and we weren't going to leave until they had. They had taken away freedoms from people that didn't want the vaccine. They had destroyed people's lives who had lost jobs, lost homes, lost people who had actually died. And it was heartbreaking to see the government hadn't recognised them. How can you have people in government sit there and just say, well, actually, these didn't happen. And then for the media to turn around and call you a conspiracy theorist if you say it. They just insult you because they don't have an answer back for it, and they don't want to look at it. What if it had been someone from your family? How can someone knowingly change the story to fit their narrative when you have people fighting for what we were fighting for? It's hard to see where they're coming from. The fact that you're taking away meaning from people who have had serious loss, how can they just stand idle by and not want to be a part of the solution?
Everyone, please link arms. We stand together in unity, peace and love, because we want our freedom and rights back. We want our country back. We don't want deception. We don't want lies.
Put your phones down and link arms, people!
We want the truth. So the mainstream media, you're more than welcome to come down here and film everybody that's coming together, linking arms and unity and love, because we want the truth. The nation needs to know the truth. Please tell the truth.
We were violent last night. There was no violence. There was in the newspaper saying that we were violent. There was a picture of a big crowd.
Let's not retaliate. That's exactly what we're wanting. We remain in unity and love.
I'm here for unity, solidarity.
All prayer warriors, we need you to pray now, please.
I'm here for all the children.
Prayer warriors,
For all of us.
Where did you come from?
Whangarei.
You come all the way from Whangarei.
Yep.
God of nations at my feet.
Louder.
In the arms of love we meet. Hear our voices we entreat. God defend our free land. God Pacific's triple star, from the shafts of strife and war, make her praises heard afar. God defend New Zealand. Men of every creed and race, gather here before thy face, asking thee to bless this place. God defend our free land from dissension, and division and corruption God our state. Make our country good and great. God defend New Zealand.
It's a really scary time for everybody. It's a really critical time of the future of New Zealand. On the one side, we have the people who are standing for truth, for justice, for freedom, and for democracy. On the other side, we have the people who we pay to represent us, who have sworn an oath to stand up for the peace. We need the people to be really brave, to be really peaceful, because this is the moment that we choose the future of New Zealand. Our future is chosen on the one hand between peace and love, and on the other hand between aggression, bullying and fear.
The arrival of the police was quite a big moment. You know, they were preparing themselves to say, your time's up, it's time to leave. You know, they weren't prepared to come and talk to us. All they were prepared to do was send out police to try and intimidate the protesters and try and get us to leave on our own.
I remember turning and facing the police and sort of saying, well, what is the problem? Why are you here? You weren't here yesterday. They kept telling us it was illegal. I don't believe it was illegal at all. Obviously, with a legal background, I'd go away and research, like, what is the law on trespass? On parliamentary grounds, it's a public place. It's a place for people to come and share their views. It's a place for freedom of speech. The right place to protest is at Parliament. Parliament's own website says that Parliament is a place for protest.
If the government breaks their own laws, it is a tyranny. We want peace, but we're not going to just roll away because there's a team of people in uniforms trying to exclude us from the People's Parliament of New Zealand.
The effect of the police coming in that day was heightened emotions. So as a result of that, of course, it became very chaotic fast. It all made sense. They knew what they were coming in to do to us. They wanted to instill fear of us. They wanted to intimidate us, bully us into leaving.
One thing that we can ask for, please, just to show that we are in peace, is all we need to do is just drop your tent. Doesn't mean to say we're going anywhere.
And you can see it from all angles. You had people trying to do the right thing and keep the police happy.
We're not going anywhere. We're staying. One thing that I saw is we dropped the tent.
When at the same time we're like, well, we're not being heard. You don't care about our jobs. You don't care about our homes, our families to support. No, it's not about going home. We're here to be heard, to make a noise the way Canada is doing. For those of us that came with the convoy to make a stand, we're staying here, we're not going anywhere. People deal with traumas in different ways. In my opinion, it was going to happen. It was meant to build up, explode. We were just very lucky that day that Matiu took the stage and he calmed us.
I know people have travelled from all over Aotearoa to be here, and they put in a lot of mahi, a lot of work, a lot of effort to be here. So we need to make the most of being here. We need to do our best to make this work. So we need to stay in a peaceful state today. People, can you hear me? We are free. We are a part of a world family.
One moment, everyone's crying, screaming, shouting at each other, the government, the police, everything, the media was chaos. And the next minute, he's got us all moving together as one, clicking our fingers, singing along.
Oh, 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 I can feel it go. Oh, 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 to my very soul.
We were lucky enough to have the likes of Matiu, Sue Gray, bring us back to our core of why we were there. Love, peace, unity. And knowing now what happened the next day, it all made sense. They knew what they were coming in to do to us. But because we remained peaceful, we did our best to keep everyone on the same side, calm, peaceful. If people were being expressive, our own people were making sure to control that, keep them away from the front line.
Make a conscious effort for now, for the rest of the day, or for as long as we're here, stay in peace. I've listened to the news on the way in, they're trying to make us look like crazy people, but we know here that we are here because we have got love and we've got care for our children, we've got care for our people here in Aotearoa. We know why we're here.
It very much set the tone for the next day. Everyone was aware and clear on the same page that we were there for peace and love, and the media were trying to catch anything that was against that as possible, so that if we weren't able to control ourselves, you had your neighbours standing there right next to you, strangers, to keep us all calm together, holding it down, talking calmly, talking peacefully, singing. But I don't understand how they seem to think that they could
get away with not sharing the full truth when social media is too big now. Everyone has a phone in their hand. We're in that time. Everyone was doing lives, sharing. And then as you talk to people, everyone knows someone that was there.
All right, guys, we're down at Parliament. We've just raced back because apparently the police have locked everyone in. They're threatening to arrest everybody. Everyone's sitting down peacefully at the moment, but we're going to try and go higher and see if we can get some full footage of it.
Someone banged on the door, the police are here, the police are here. Scramble out of bed and get up there. So I was heading up and sharing that on my live. And then I sort of went through the whole front line and went down and found myself a space to sit down. Because my thoughts were that if I wasn't doing anything wrong, then I wouldn't get arrested. If I wasn't being abusive and aggressive, then I would be fine.
You've been trespassed, ma'am, on Fuzzy Loop.
Excuse me?
You've been trespassed from Parliament Ground. We're enforcing that trespass.
Yeah, you know that that's not legal. Don't shrug your shoulders like that. Come on, you know it's not legal.
Okay. All I can say is you've been trespassed. We are going to clear Parliament Ground and hold it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that will happen.
But, okay, but are you for it?
I'll do my job.
Your job is to protect us. You know, you've taken a solemn oath. We know you took it. Your job is not to work for the government. We pay your wages, not the government. Your job is to protect us.
Anthem, can you hear that? So I'm up here basically on this like ledge. There's only a couple people here because pretty much everyone is in there. So as you can see, we're on top of basically the gate. There's all the cops there. Oh my God.
We all just stood in a row. Some people were sitting, some people were linked arms with their backs, some people were facing forward. And we all just held on to each other while the police would push. And I kind of thought that they were just pushing to push us back, and then they would take a tent. But then they started taking people and arresting them. I was like, for what?
I'd seen further down the line people getting dragged out of the crowds, arrested. And so at first I thought, oh, they must be being abusive or naughty. But it was as people started getting ripped out close to me that I realised they were going for the ones that were having an impact on the police, making them think about why they signed up to their jobs, what we were doing there. We weren't hurting people, we were there peacefully.
We're going to be absolutely destroyed if we leave this place. If you push us out, we're going to come back in.
You know what's happening? I bet you guys have seen it. Suicide has gone through the roof.
More coming.
Suicides have gone through the roof because people are losing their jobs. And I bet you guys are the ones that see it. I bet you guys are the ones that see the effects of what's happening, don't you? You know exactly what's happening to this country. What about all the teenagers?
Sides of the teams are going to be blood on your hands, guys.
You guys see it all. We're fighting for those kids. You know, kids at school get bullied now for not having a vaccine. They get bullied. What does that do to someone? This is what we're fighting for. Show some humanity.
You're coming towards us, mate.
Come on, young lady. I know you're stressed. I can see it. You want to turn around and walk away because this is not what you were trained to do. We don't want to. You were trained to protect us. Come on. I know how much this is hurting you. I can see how much this is hurting you. There's tears coming to your eyes because you know this is wrong.
I know that you know these mandates are wrong. I know that you actually don't believe in them. You shouldn't be holding the line against your own citizens. You shouldn't be pushing and arresting your own citizens for something you know inside your heart is wrong. You know that little children shouldn't be mandated a jab to try and play rugby. Canada has dropped so many of their mandates. The UK has dropped their mandates, Sweden, Denmark. Why are we still protesting? Why are you fighting? You're fighting. You're fighting for a pharmaceutical company.
What you're doing, but at the end of the day, you weigh about 30 kgs each, and you're going to get squashed.
Go ahead then. If you want to do that, go ahead. We'll fight.
watch when you get yourself up, guys. Yeah.
Look at all these people! Look at all these tents! Look how far you've come! Is this really the strategy?
You see all the people on the bridges and on the roads waving us on.
50,000 more people getting their way.
I'm so mad at the media just hiding up there. It's like they couldn't even come and interview people and ask them why they're down here. The Speaker of the House said he didn't want people being spoken to. So that's the reality, right? Like all these people, they can just go home. The people in Parliament, that you've cost people their lives. It's like people have actually died. You've caused them their jobs. You've caused them their mental health. Of course they're going to stand here and be angry at you and upset at you. And the fact that not one of you can come out and speak to them just shows your lack of integrity and your lack of character. And this is every single sitting MP. None of you should be in there if you can't actually talk to the people, because you're elected by the people, for the people, not just for a specific amount of people, not just for a certain demographic that's your demographic. You should actually be listening to all the people, every single person, no matter if you agree or disagree with them, because they're allowed to be heard. See how there's a big line of cops, and then what they do is they drive in, they separate, like two of these cops will start pushing people, separate, this whole line will drive in, grab someone's legs and pull them out. Like look, no one is fighting, not one protester is fighting the police, not one of them. And the fact that they're even standing like this, pushing against people, when everyone is standing there peacefully singing the national anthem, this is wrong.
This does not need to happen.
All of a sudden, they started pushing, and this guy, it felt like he was directing everyone, looked straight at me and just goes, arrest them, and he like reached in and tried to grab me.
And that's when I got arrested, because they were coming at me from the front. They'd gone behind Jimmy, my friend, trampling on his legs, and we're just trying to hold on to each other. It just felt like they were coming from all angles.
This is all on camera. You're doing it to your own people. You're doing it to your own people.
How bad does this feel for you? We just want peace. We just want peace. We just want peace. Hey, get off of me. Get off of me. Get off of me. You can't breathe. Let go. You can't breathe. Hey, got me. You got me. Get off of me. You can't breathe. Hold it back!
When I first walked up to it and I saw the cop line, I said to myself, now or never, this is the time to fight for what I believe in, and I believed that if I was going to get arrested, I was getting arrested for the right reasons, and these were the reasons I was getting arrested for the freedom of my country and for the freedom of the people that I was trying to support down there and the people that I was trying to support at home. Even the people that don't see it, they might not see it yet, but hopefully one day they might see the reasons of why I went down there, and they'll realise that I actually got arrested for them too. You don't really see yourself in that situation, but to know that you're doing it for something that you believe in makes it pretty easy. Once they dragged me out of the line, I just laid there on the ground, and I just hoped that everyone else that was staying behind was going to be able to hold the line.
Sort of late in the afternoon, I don't know why, I just, things had gone quiet. I chose to leave the front line, and I walked around and I came to a position where I could oversee the front line. I'm looking down on it and my mind's going crazy, trying to process what's going on, what did I just go through, what's this day all about? And then all of a sudden, the police started retiring their position. I believe that they'd realised they were going nowhere. They were not going to arrest their way out of this. They realised that our determination to stay was stronger than the amount of manpower or even will that they had at that time. And as they were retiring, the crowd started chanting, and it wasn't what you think it would be. It's not the F the police or we beat you or anything like that. The crowd started chanting over and over again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it went on for minutes. But I bet your mainstream media never showed you that.
So we were at home watching it on live stream from like Chantel Baker, and it was so raw, it was so wrong. It was just wrong. You were able to understand that these were peaceful people with their back to the police officers, singing songs and blowing bubbles. And the police came at them, not engaging, not kind, but brutal. And you can see that clearly in the live streams.
I had texted my son during the day and said to him, if I get arrested, your nana will be in contact with you and she'll let you know what's happened. And he messaged back and went, ha ha ha, whatever mum. And then during the day went on, he'd started watching live streams and he was watching it and was like, okay, shit, mum was for real. And then finally I rang him and said, it's all over, we've won. And he's like, I can't believe what I've just watched. He's like, I never thought in New Zealand I would ever see that happening to people. And he's like, I thought you were joking.
And I think that's when the mainstream media lost a lot of people, because we could see clearly the contrast from truth, live streaming, to the edited version that they were putting on our goggle box. And I knew very well that just didn't make sense anymore. Come on. So the effect of that was that thousands of people got in their cars and came down. We had to join in. It was wrong.
So later on in that day, my mum rang me up just to check that I was okay, and she said, I just don't trust them anymore. They just don't tell the truth. I've just watched something completely different to what they are reporting. She's watched two opposing descriptions and made up her own mind. I think people like my mum came to the conclusion that what they were seeing on mainstream media wasn't the truth because of the history of what had been built up. 80,000 of us were meant to be dead. All the narrative that had gone on had actually built up distrust in media all the way through to the point where conservative female retirees are questioning mainstream media. People that have watched TV1 News their whole lives for their information are now going, something doesn't add up here.
Feeling that insecure that
totally. But there's loads of stories. There's loads of chatter, and then there is what is happening. This is a desperate measures from someone who obviously feels super threatened and vulnerable, and like they're going to get caught out.
Because the agreement and the contract has actually been broken with us, the people, and they're not listening. And then police. Yes, the police and the government.
So I rang my boss and I said to him, mate, I'm not coming home. I can't leave after what's happened here today. I can't leave. I couldn't go home after that. The emotion of it and the just downright wrongness of it. And if I'm really honest, not ideal setting up tents and parking in the streets, but when nobody's listening, you got to take action. And I guess, in hindsight, it did have to happen because the government was rolling over the top of us like a steamroller. So, yeah, and then the rain came. And my goodness, it was galvanising because it was almost freeing, because you looked around and you went, mate, the cops tried to beat us out of here yesterday. This is nothing. It's just a little cyclone.
Where the world is watching you and the stand you have taken. They underestimated us, family. They came in with tactics, drawing us from the front line, leaning their knees on the heads of our women. Just a few naughty ones. They're not all bad. But what happened when we saw that is it stoked a fire not just in Aotearoa, but in the world, that we have had enough. Yeah. We are ready now to rise as one unified family across the planet to say, our bodies, our choice. Yeah. No longer will we hold our children's futures ransom. No longer will they keep our babies from breathing fresh air. No longer will the mothers and the fathers stand back while they continue to roll out booster after booster. We are done. Yeah! We're not leaving until these mandates lift. We're not leaving until the masks come off. We're not leaving until the tyranny is finished. And in Canada, brothers and sisters, 2 provinces already. Why? Because of a convoy just like this. You're making history now. Stay in your center. Listen to your guidance. We're ready for this. Freedom!
That protest was, we've had enough. It was people finding their voices, people finding the courage to step up, people finding a community where they felt that they belonged after they'd been isolated for 2 years. People who'd been told that they were the only person that was so stupid that was declining the vaccine, suddenly finding tens of thousands and perhaps even hundreds of thousands of other people that actually had the same concerns.
It's who I am. It's who I am.
Well, we came from Auckland. We joined the convoy on Hamilton on Monday, and then we came down here to Wellington. This possibly is our, this is the big stand. We're doing well so far. Those brave people that peacefully stood against the police on Thursday. Yeah, I'm so thankful for them. I was watching on the live stream up from Auckland, and when they won the day, I was just so happy, and I just knew I was coming down the next day,
No more segregation!
Yeah, well, I was the Jacinda supporter at the beginning, you know. But when the vaccine came in, I started to do some research, and their narrative falls to bits once you start looking into it. She's divided our families. People are losing their homes and stuff. This lady just over here, she's had to give up her home. She lost her job and lost her home, so it's sad what Jacinda's done. She portrayed herself as such a nice person, and I fell for it too, but yeah, she's heartless, yeah.
Anybody been here the last few days, had a little taste of freedom? Anybody been here through the last few days, felt a little bit of connection? Anybody been here the last few days, felt just a little bit of healing? Anyone felt a little bit of love?
I think that the longer we stayed, the more obvious the problem was that we had a government that didn't respect the people, and the mandates were a symptom of the problem, but it's a much deeper problem than that. People started to question democracy. What is democracy when your own elected representatives won't come and talk to you? Like all 120 of them basically enter into a conspiracy between themselves that none of them will come and speak to the public that they're all supposed to represent. So the problem got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's now a problem of lack of democracy, lack of constitution, lack of fundamental rights and freedoms and respect for the people.
I just wanted to say to Trevor Mallard, you set the sprinkler off about a foot from my tent, and you've got all this music playing, you've got the lights shining on us at night, and I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. You've helped strengthen my resolve, and I just wanted to say, please sir, may I have some more? Love you, Trevor.
Greg and everyone here has pretty much been here for most of the week, but we just have to keep going because people have come from all over New Zealand to do this, and the least we can do is just cook for them and give them some energy so we can keep standing up for our rights.
What a ball. Are you hungry? Come and get some. Get down here.
Yeah.
Bring your gumboots. How ridiculous. Let's flood them out with the sprinklers. We're a country of gumboots. You muppets.
I mean, New Zealanders are really generally very decent people, and yet we had a government that was deliberately dividing people and deliberately closing down important conversations, name-calling, abusing people, and in the end turned our own police force on our people. And that was totally cruel, illegal, inhumane, and inexcusable. And that's why it's got to change. It taught us we actually need to find ways of looking after our own futures. The government is not looking after us, and we need to stop imagining that they are.
Give me freedom, freedom, freedom. We came here for freedom, freedom, yeah, freedom. Freedom! 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 Yeah! Is there anybody else on the list, or is there what's the okay. I think, well, We'll do another freestyle. I ran out of real songs, so we'll just do another freestyle. That was fun.